Yahoo News colleague in our workspace over in the Tampa Convention Center. Chris Sulentrop is moderating the Yahoo News live blog with our contributors there. Chris, thank you so much for joining us, sir. What is the conversation happening just below us on that screen on the page in your live blog tonight? What's popping there as they're watching the goings-on on the floor?
Well, there's three themes that are going on right now. One is who's going to be the mystery speaker. The second is that they love Mia Love, and the third is, and I hate to break it to you, some of them want to watch more speeches and less David and Amy, but we've directed them to the raw feed for the minority of the people out there who aren't excited by your beautiful faces.
The very, very small minority, no doubt.
Very, very small.
Let's talk about Mia Love. Why was there so much love for Mia Love?
There's not a lot of specific commentary about why Mia Love was so attractive to them, but she just is the one speaker tonight of everybody. Not a lot of support not a lot of people impressed by Scott Walker or Bob McDonnell or any of the other speeches, but Mia Love over and over again in the comments are just people saying that they just loved her speech, they loved her energy, they loved her charisma, and people have said she's a potential star in the making. Certainly the comments in our live blog suggest that might be the case.
Well, and she has a little bit of an uphill fight. I mean, she's in the state of Utah, which of course is very good for Republicans. She's challenging Jim Matheson, who's been there for many years and is an institution in that state. So she still has to win the seat before she can become a star in the making. I am curious, though, if you're seeing anything more about this sort of brewing fight within the party. We heard a lot about Ron Paul supporters getting frustrated about this rules process. Is anything like that still bubbling out there?
There are a lot of Ron Paul supporters in the comments. There's not a lot of talk about the rules process, but there are some Ron Paul supporters who want him to be the mystery speaker. I doubt that'll be the case. But we're getting talk of is Mitt Romney the mystery speaker? Is George W. Bush the mystery speaker? Is Laura Bush the mystery speaker? Go right ahead, David.
I was just going to say, I can tell you Mitt Romney is not the mystery speaker. He's actually on the agenda. Chris Sulentrop, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to check in with you again throughout the week. It's great to hear what's going on in that live blog. We appreciate it. We turn now to the other party. We have not spoken to many Democrats here. You don't usually find Democrats at a Republican convention, but Robert Gibbs, former White House press secretary and obviously a senior advisor to the Obama campaign, here to do what they call bracketing in your business. Is this not
Charlotte?
Is this not? No, you lost.
I know.
You lost your way.
Weird?
We're not in Charlotte.
Is it weird for you to be in a room of all Republicans like this? Do you feel uncomfortable?
Very truthfully, very nice. As I walked into the convention hall, but yeah, this is. You feel like you're the uninvited guest at the very large party. So
well, and you're not exactly an unrecognizable figure, right? So people have been watching you on TV for a long time. Did they come up to you and ask to take pictures with you?
I've taken a decent number of pictures. Okay. It's very fun to watch. The delegates, they're tired, they're worn out. They sort of look.
and they also go, wait, are we in Charlotte?
Where? That's Robert Gibbs. That guy's not a delegate. I'm not the mystery speaker.
You are not the mystery speaker?
I want to clear that up before we go.
Obviously, you guys want to make sure that it's not entirely a one-sided story that gets told here, even though you're very eager to have a one-sided story next week. Why come here? Why do this and not just let Mitt Romney have his week? Yeah. You guys get your week next week and let each side sort of talk directly to the American people.
This has been going on at political conventions, I think, for I remember back into 1996, 1992. I just think certainly with the incredible speed at which the campaigns are moving at these days, it's just really hard to give up any space in the media cycle without trying to get in there and get a little information about what you aren't hearing here that you might need to hear, or what you are hearing that we might and should correct. So I think it's, look, I think we're reminded of the strength of our democracy every time we come to these, regardless of whether I'm the uninvited guest here or not. If anybody were to come to Charlotte, I think they would say the same thing.
So you're going to give them a lot of credentials, right? You're going to give the Romney team credentials to come on up to your box. Well, let's talk about something. David Chalian's favorite question to ask Republicans is, given how bad the economy is, given the views of many voters about the president's handling of the economy,
right,
why isn't Mitt Romney up more? I'm going to switch that around for a second and say, given how much money the Obama team has spent defining Mitt Romney, and it's been working, all right? He's underwater now. He has higher unfavorables, lower favorables than any candidate coming into their party's convention.
Right.
Why aren't you beating him by a bigger margin?
Because I think we're in a very, very polarized, very close electorate. I mean, it's interesting. I tell this to groups that I speak to now. 4 years ago, Barack Obama won in a landslide. We got 53% in a landslide.
That is.
So I think this is going to be a closer election, which means you're always going to have a very small sliver of undecided voters that you spend a lot of time talking to. In terms of the money, I do think we obviously have spent a decent amount of money defining him, talking about his background and his experience. And I didn't think I'd probably sit here 6 or 12 months ago and say this. We're going to be outspent by a fairly large number when you add in all the super PAC spending on their side, that some of which you do have to respond to, that is going to open up a funding disparity that's unlike what you would have thought an incumbent president would have to run against.
Robert Gibbs of the Obama campaign. We're going to take a listen now to go hear Rick Santorum, but I would love it if you could stay here and talk with us on the other side. Obviously, he was the last man standing against Mitt Romney in the process to get this nomination.
Bless you. Thank you. Thank you, Pennsylvania. It is a great honor for me to be here tonight with the love of my wife Karen, over here, and my 93-year-old mother from Florida, and some of our children. My oldest son, John, wanted to be here tonight, but he's a first-year cadet at the Citadel. And so I just want to say to you, John, proud of you, son. Thank you. I am a first-generation American. At the age of 7, my dad came to Johnstown, Pennsylvania, from the mountains of northern Italy, on a ship named Providence. How providential that one day his son would announce for president just down the road from the deep mines where his father, my grandfather, mined coal till he was 72 years old. When my grandfather died, I remembered as a kid kneeling at his casket and not being able to take my eyes off his thick, strong hands. Hands that dug his path in life and gave his family a chance at living the American dream. Working the mines may not have been the dream he ever dreamed. I never dared to ask him. But I think his answer would have been that America gave him more than he had ever hoped. America believed in him. That's why he believed in America. My grandfather, like millions of other immigrants, didn't come here for some government guarantee of income equality or government benefits to take care of his family. In 1923, there were no government benefits for immigrants except one: freedom. Under President Obama, the dream of freedom and opportunity has become a nightmare of dependency, with almost half of America receiving some sort of government assistance. It's no surprise fewer and fewer Americans are achieving their dreams, and more parents are concerned their children won't realize theirs. President Obama spent 4 years and borrowed $5 trillion trying to convince you that he can make things better for you, to put your trust in him and the government to take care of every problem. The result? Massive debt, anemic growth, and millions more unemployed. The president's plan didn't work for America because that's not how America works. In America, we believe in freedom and the responsibility that comes with it to work hard to make the dream of reaching our God-given potential come true. We believe it because it still works. Even today, graduate from high school, work hard, and get married before you have children, and the chance you will ever be in poverty is just 2%. Yet, if you don't do these 3 things, you're 38 times more likely to end up in poverty. We understand many Americans don't succeed because the family that should be there to guide them.
Rick Santorum, Robert, giving us a little taste of his personal story more than necessarily Mitt Romney's story.
I think he starts off with a personal story that sounds a lot like Middle America.
Yep.
I think it is interesting, though, that his speech then goes quickly to a speech that really only talks to people inside this hall. I don't think that's a speech, quite frankly. If you're that undecided voter in Ohio and Virginia or in Colorado, I'm not sure Rick Santorum's speech is living where you're living right now. And I think it's interesting, this convention is still spending an awful lot of time talking to voters that if you believe them, they've got excited beyond belief and had them that way for a long time. And I think the convention shows it's not exactly the case at the moment.
So Republicans do believe, Robert, that this election is a referendum, not just on Barack Obama, but on government, the size of government and the role of government. And in our own poll that came out the other day, more people say that they'd like smaller government with fewer services rather than larger government with more services. So is he wrong, though, to go after government and say, you know what, most people in this country, they know that at the end of the day, they want to be able to have a government that works, but not one that spends beyond its means and goes over them.
I don't think anybody disagrees with that, but I mean, I think when you set up the way that because of some government programs, people can't reach their dreams. Because of the guarantee of Medicare and Social Security, is somebody who's hoping to go to college not able to make it? I mean, I think that seems incongruent to people's lives. Look, President Obama wants only a government of the size that we absolutely need. Nobody wants to do too much. I remember 8 years ago in a famous speech that he gave in Boston, talking about, we don't want people wasting money on welfare that we don't need, or the Pentagon. Where's a whole host of those strains. Again, I just think this is a very base-driven speech. It's just because the truth is there are a bunch of those independents in Ohio that understand that if the government can help lower the interest rate for a child that has the grades and the drive to go to college but can't afford it and their parents can't afford it, if the government can drive that interest rate down, that's actually a good thing. That helps them get ahead. It's not a government dependency that prevents them from living their dreams.
Robert, on your way out, we need you to sign in. This is our iPad guest book. You need to sign your name. You can either draw your home state, or you can also draw a picture about what this election means to you, and sign your name, and then we'll take a photo of you, and we're building a whole slideshow, but we're saving all that. While you're doing that,
yes, because I
have a question.
That seemed like a lot to do, and still ask me a question.
Well, that's okay. Go ahead. You're very skilled.
No, go ahead. Ask me. I'm kidding.
I do want to ask you, upcoming in the program tonight is actually a former a Democrat, a member of your party, Arthur Davis, who nominated Barack Obama last convention, and in about an hour he's going to speak here on behalf of Mitt Romney. And they say that is an example of lots of people that cast their 2008 ballot for the president but became disenchanted. How is your campaign working to turn some of those disenchanted people back?
Let's deal with it as two different.
Answer and sign.
Let's deal with it as two different things.
Okay.
I'm from Alabama. I think a lot of us saw Artur Davis as a rising star in any political party. Artur Davis didn't become disenchanted. He lost an election. And now he's looking for a party where he thinks he can win an election. This is a marriage of some political convenience. This is nothing to do with what he thinks and how he feels. Because I'm reminded when a Democratic congressman from northern Alabama switched parties in, I think, 2008 or 2009. Artur Davis was the one in the Alabama delegation that put out the strongest press release against people like this. So I had, past tense, great respect for Congressman Davis. I think he's party shopping to try to get his try to advance his career, quite honestly. Look, I think there are people, obviously, that wanted to see greater change and wanted to see faster change, that wanted to understand that we could do all of these things a little more quickly, a little quicker. And look, I think one of the things that we've all had to understand is great change takes a while, and it certainly takes a long time when you're dealing with the type of economic calamities that we've dealt with. I think took us a while to get to that point where we were losing 800,000 jobs a month, and it's going to take us a long time to get back to that point where we replace all of them. We've never been through that kind of economic disaster before, and I think it's up to us as a campaign and as a political party to continue to challenge voters out there about their hopes and dreams and bring them back to that place in 2008 that gave them a real and genuine sense that the best days in our country were still ahead. I know that's what the president still believes.
Robert Gibbs, Senior Obama Advisor, thank you very much for being here. We look forward to seeing you in Charlotte in just a few days. And
then we'll make him, when we're in Charlotte, we'll make him draw the map of North Carolina. That's next on your list. But I think, because Alabama, that's not too hard. But I still will give anybody credit who can figure that out. Drawing Illinois, I hope I do not have to do that. It's a little bit tough.
Can you do Alabama?
Come on. There's a little bit of cheating going on.
Oh,
here.
He's looking at
the map.
That's crazy.
I mean, you should be able to.
Well done.
Draw with that.
There you go.
Well done. Very well done.
Thank you, Robert.
I thought we could cheat. I didn't know if this was.
That's a delicate bingo.
Here,
that's all right.
Wipe it off. I'll do this.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks for coming by.
Enjoy the night.
Thanks. You too. Well, listen, I think, thus far, that's one of the better states that we've seen.
Yeah.
So I think somebody's going to have to go and meet that challenge. Well, there are a whole bunch of folks here that we've talked about who are either delegates. We've talked about the presidential candidates. The one body that we still have not spent a whole lot of time talking about yet is the one body that's controlled by Republicans right now, and that's the House of Representatives. And so we're very glad joining us now as he's putting his old school headphones on is Eric Cantor, the majority leader in Congress from the Commonwealth of Virginia. Also my home state, so the two of us can have a drawing contest there for who can put Virginia together. Tell us a little bit about Mitt Romney, if he gets into the White House, how he works with Congress. We're going to hear a lot about Mitt Romney when he was an executive, when he was in Massachusetts, worked really well with Democrats, able to do bipartisan things to get things done. But across the board, everyone says this Congress is dysfunctional. It's as polarized as ever. What could he do differently than Barack Obama's doing to make Congress work?
Well, the thing is with Mitt Romney is you've got evidence where he was governor of Massachusetts, a very blue state, and was actually able to work with a Democratic legislature to produce results for the people of that state. And that's what's so needed right now in Washington. We've just not had a president who'd been willing to actually work with Congress to seek some kind of agreement to produce results. And I know, having served in Virginia, and I always harken back to Governor Doug Wilder, who was actually, if you recall in our state, who was actually really masterful at working across the political aisle, realizing the sensitivities politically of what Republicans may or may not want, but also knowing what the people of our state wanted. The same thing needs to go for the country. And Mitt Romney is someone who's actually demonstrated an ability to produce results in the realm of the public sector as governor, and certainly we have seen him and his success bringing people of opposing views together to produce results.
You were a Mitt Romney supporter in his first run in 2007, I believe, 2008. Is that correct?
No, listen, I've been a Mitt Romney fan for a long time. And, this time around, I think you've seen our party really coalesce behind the man who has, I think, come to the table, if you will, at a time in history where his talents and leadership ability fit perfectly with what the nation needs right now. And that is someone who understands the private sector, understands how to get people back to work with a real compassion for people who actually need government at a level that will help them get up the socioeconomic ladder that all of us know America offers.
What was it like, I'm curious, in your conference when Paul Ryan got named on the VP ticket? I mean, we don't often see House members get elevated that instantly, and I'm wondering how all your colleagues, obviously, I'm sure there's excitement for him. Was there surprise?
I think all of us, including Paul, and I was with Paul the day the announcement occurred, and I think all of us were so energized by it, certainly taken aback because it's a House member, it's one of us, and I've certainly been very friendly with Paul over the years, working on a lot of things together to affect the kind of reforms that we believe this country so desperately needs when we're facing such a very difficult economy the way we are.
I want to go to the state of Virginia. It's obviously a big battleground, and specifically for those of us who live in Northern Virginia, we see a lot of advertising, and a lot of it is aimed at women. There's a lot of talk about women's issues, specifically abortion and birth control. They believe that in Northern Virginia, that women's vote could be the difference between Barack Obama or Mitt Romney winning. How does Mitt Romney go about talking to women in the state and dealing with an issue that has traditionally been a real problem for Republicans in that part of Virginia?
Well, I think that what you know in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we are a diverse state. We are almost this year a microcosm of what the country's about and what the country's looking for. And that is people want to see an economy that grows again. Women, not unlike men, want to see a better future for their kids. And, I think that Mitt Romney and his presidency is going to be about making life work for women again, both married, unmarried, single women, men, young people, old. Mitt Romney's platform is about growing the economy again. It's about getting people back to work. And there's a stark contrast in the way that Mitt and Paul Ryan will approach the issues of the day versus the president.
So do you think he needs to address the abortion issue, though, head on?
I think Mitt Romney's been very clear on his position on abortion. And like my position, he believes that in a pro-life position, but also allows for the exception of rape, incest, or the life of the mother. And I think
which is not your party's platform.
Well, I think that Mitt Romney's been very clear about that, and I bet you wouldn't find anybody in this hall that would 100% agree on every single issue in the platform, just like the other party wouldn't see. I mean, we're all different people, but what binds us together as Republicans here is something that is at our core very much associated with our state. It's about that Jeffersonian view of a limited and responsible government, yielding to the individual, and the aspirations of the American people, not the dictate of Washington. I think that's the real choice we've got before us.
Congressman, a rising star in your party is on the stage right now. His name is Ted Cruz, and he has just won the Senate nomination in Texas, likely to join the United States Senate, fueled by that Tea Party enthusiasm. Let's listen to a little bit of what he has to say, and we'll talk about it in just a moment.
Restrained. It's the story of the brave Texians in the city of Gonzales. When General Santa Anna demanded that they hand over their guns and the cannon that guarded their city, they responded with the immortal cry, Come and take it. It's the story of the greatest generation who rose up to confront the grotesque evil that was the Nazis, and who ushered in the greatest era of peace and prosperity the world has ever seen. It's the story of civil rights pioneers like Dr. Martin Luther King, who stood up to the scourge of discrimination and bravely championed that each of us must be judged not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. It's the story of President Ronald Reagan, who turned back the growth of government and restored mourning in America.
Congressman, as I was saying, Ted Cruz here, his victory was fueled by the Tea Party, and this goes back to what Amy first asked you when you sat down, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. You, obviously, and Speaker Boehner, as you guys lead your conference, have done that sort of wrangling of the Tea Party to make sure you're pushing your agenda through all the different factions inside your party, but certainly all those freshmen that elevated you guys to the majority. If Mitt Romney becomes president, won't he? Will he not face those very same struggles to get the party all together to move his agenda forward?
Well, you know, I think by Mitt Romney's selection of Paul Ryan on the ticket, I mean, Mitt has said, look, I agree with those who believe that we're taxed enough already, the acronym of the Tea Party. I agree that Washington has grown too big to do the kinds of things that the people of this country need our federal government to do. And again, Mitt has the experience both in the public and private sector to affect the kinds of changes and reforms that we need to make the government work the way it's supposed to. And so I am very excited, and I believe that Mitt Romney is the leader we need for the time, and will be able to produce results that unfortunately have been non-existent under the president's agenda currently, and that's why so many Americans are so disappointed with what's going on in the country right now, which gives Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan the chance to, I think, come in and affect the kind of change they're looking for.
So we're asking all our guests to sign in on the iPad. So you have to sign your name here, and if you could either draw a picture of your state or what this some sort of picture of what this election means to you. But you also have to sign your name there.
Yeah, you know, Virginia's not the easiest state to draw. It's not like the plain states.
Oh, I know, but if Diane Sawyer drew Kentucky, it looks kind of like Virginia, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's impressive.
Oh, wow, that is really good.
That is really good.
Really, really
good. Got to put my hometown right there.
Of course.
So we'll.
You know, that's impressive.
House Majority Leader Eric Cantor, thank you so much for being with us, sir. What do you got up there now? Romney Ryan.
Winning, and of course, I think the message there.
There you go.
Winning Virginia. That would be, if I think we can agree on this. If Mitt Romney wins Virginia, I think he would win the election.
I think so.
There's no doubt about that.
I think Mitt Romney is going to win Virginia. We're going to pull it in for George Allen. And, yes, America's going to see the kind of change that I think most of us want.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming by.
Pleasure.
Really great to see you. Really great to see you. All right, well, we're going to you know, as we look back here at the Ted Cruz speech, which is remarkable. I don't know if you guys can see this from here, but there is no podium up there, right? I was sort of taken aback when you mentioned that, and I look back and he's just very comfortably walking on the stage.
Not quite Liddy Dole going into the audience, right? But has
feeling
that,
very comfortable.
Lapel mic walking around, yeah.
And this is the thing about Ted Cruz that really made him such an appealing figure to Tea Party folks. Sarah Palin, of course, endorsing him. That he doesn't act like a traditional politician, even though he has been in politics for some time. He was a debate champion, so he's very comfortable being in this kind of position, selling himself, and what the Republicans are hoping, of course, is selling his party. And to talk about all of this, we have another one of our friends from Univision. It's so glad to see you. All right, so Makiana, Mariana. Why did that look
That's
like a
an
K?
R, yeah.
Gosh, Mariana.
Like Marianne, but with an A.
Yeah, of course. That's an easy name. That's why I thought it was strange that it was with a K. But now you have to pronounce your last name.
It's like attention, but without the N, so Atencio.
Oh, I like that. Atencio.
There
All right.
you go, Amy.
So, tell us a little bit about Ted Cruz and what you think he means to Latino voters out there, especially coming right on the heels of Marco Rubio's election in 2010.
Ted Cruz is huge. He is, one of the rising stars of the Tea Party movement and one of the hottest, rising stars in the GOP right now. Of course, he is running for the Senate in Texas. He will win most probably. And it's interesting because you also have in Texas the comparison with the mayor of San Antonio, Julian Castro. And these are the two...
Who's giving the keynote speech in
Right,
Charlotte
exactly,
next week
and
for
exactly.
Barack Obama. Yeah.
And they're complete opposites, of course. Ted Cruz is the son of a Cuban immigrant. His father actually fought alongside Batista, so against with Castro. I'm sorry, but he's now trying to portray himself as a Tea Partier and trying to attract basically the Latino vote, but always within that conservative realm of, and that is what we heard in the speech tonight. Of my father came here and. He had to learn English and he had to rise up by himself. Nobody put an arm around him, sort of saying, Latinos have to do that and not rely on welfare subsidies, all of that. So very, very conservative in that regard.
Well, there are a lot of Republicans who say, that message really does resonate with Latino voters. And Republicans say, the small business,
Exactly.
worked hard, learned a new language,
Exactly.
succeeded on their own, the family values, that is something that really connects with Latino voters. And yet, year after year, it seems like that message has not really taken hold. What is holding back Latino voters from either taking that message in or from getting themselves over that hump to vote for a Republican?
I think the immigration issue is still an issue. Republicans in this campaign have insisted on the economy, jobs, but I think it's still an issue that speaks as to the values of the party, and you've said it before. All Latinos, even if they're documented, have undocumented friends and people that they know. So I think it's a very important issue for them, but it's still an issue that divides people. I was talking to delegates from Arizona the other day, and a Cuban from Arizona, he actually carried SB 1070 within his jacket pocket, ready to defend it at any time. So it's actually still an issue that divides the Latino community, but I think it's an issue that is important, and this campaign hasn't been able to really connect beyond that. And we see that in the polling. The latest Impremedia Latino Decisions poll gives the Romney campaign only 26% versus 65% for Obama. So they still have their work cut out for them, and hopefully with speeches like Ted Cruz, they'll be able to attract that Latino voter. We heard Ted Cruz do a wonderful job with storytelling. He even threw in a little bit of Spanish. My dad came here with nothing, but he had corazón. He had heart. So hopefully they're planning on and they will win some Latinos' hearts and minds with this convention.
George W. Bush, obviously governor of Texas, and was able to build a relationship with the Latino community, was seeking comprehensive immigration reform, but he was able to really break through in a way that it seemed like the Republican Party was going to build upon. It's been a backslide since then among support. Was that just so specific to George W. Bush, the individual, or, as Amy was getting at, did he find a way to take the Republican message in a way that was resonant to Latinos, and that it wasn't just specific to him, or no, that was a specific bond he had?
No, I agree with you, Amy. And I think, for example, Jeb Bush still understands that, and we've seen that he has conveyed that message in all the events that he has gone to this week. We still need to attract this segment of the population, without which, it's going to be very hard to win. I think what has happened within the Republican Party is that all this sort of gearing to the right that we've seen has really hurt them with the Latino community, and that's really the biggest difference I can see from now as to the time when George W. Bush ran.
Well, and the other issue that a lot of Republicans bring up is the fact that they have many elected Republican officials, especially governors, in places like Nevada and in New Mexico.
Of course.
that they have a deeper bench of Latino elected officials than Democrats do. So where is that disconnect then? If they're building a bench of really strong leaders and yet still only getting 25% of the Latino vote?
I mean, like I say, maybe it's this issue when you have sort of on the other side people like Jan Brewer who, really pull away from that effort that Susana Martinez and Brian Sandoval are doing. Maybe that could be an issue.
Right.
But I think it'll all come down.
Do those two governors? Just listening to them, they talk about immigration very differently, right? And so they differ from the party both in the tone and tenor as well as the fundamental issue itself, right? Or the policies itself.
Exactly, and they themselves, they were talking at a Hispanic leadership conference that we attended this morning, saying that they were Democrats in Susana Martinez's case, for example, and they switched parties. They tell their own personal stories. It's like Jeb Bush with his wife, who's Mexican. So I think it really comes down to talking to the Latino community specifically, not lumping them with the larger sort of middle America, white community, and just doing a little bit of storytelling and winning hearts and minds. And I think that's what Susana Martinez does, that's what Brian Sandoval does, and that's what Ted Cruz is doing right now.
Also in their language, right? I mean, we do see Spanish language advertising coming from both campaigns, but it's slightly different. The Romney approach is to sort of take, almost to the point you were exactly just making, seems to be taking an ad that would run in English and just kind of translate it, right? and play it. Whereas the Obama campaign, it seems to be really changing the messaging involved, tailoring it to the community, so that it's not just an ad that would run elsewhere.
Exactly. And again, it goes to the thing where, because they've honed in on unemployment, the economy, but that's just maybe not enough for this community who wants to know, the Republican Party leaders a little bit better.
Well, we have a special, I don't know if you've watched some of the other guests try to do this, but
not.
This is okay. So
Amy will give you the.
So
this caught me off base completely.
I know we like to put a little element of surprise in here.
I mean, for the amount of hours you guys have to be sitting down here,
right, we're trying to do that. I think I lost all feeling in my legs about an hour and a half ago. So if you see me collapse, because I can't stand up. This is our virtual guest book. All right, so in the era now of the iPad, we're asking our guests to sign in. Now, sign in means anything you would like to do. You could doodle something. You can draw something about what this convention means to you, what America means, what you think that you would like to convey by your signature, what it says about you. You can be really, really creative. And we will not judge anything that you do.
Do I do it with my finger?
You do it with your finger. This is the era of the iPad.
The stylus is so passé.
It's very passé, and as a parent of a 5-year-old who thinks that everything should move like an iPad does, he does that with regular computers. He does that with the TV. He has no idea that this idea of a keypad is just. All right, so can we see it?
Okay, so the message that I'm conveying is a very corporate message, but it's from the heart, and it's ABC Univision, which is this project that I'm very thrilled to be a part of, hopefully in the future. And I think it goes to what we were talking about. It's this new community. I'm a bilingual speaker. I myself am originally from Venezuela, and it's speaking to this new generation of Latinos in a different way.
Oh, that is wonderful. Maybe I can draw a heart on that afterwards.
And we can put Yahoo in there.
There we go.
I appreciate it.
We don't want to make him the third wheel. Thank you so much for coming by.
Pleasure.
It was really great to meet you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. We are approaching the big hour. We are. I mean, we are now getting to the two speeches we've been talking about all night long that we're looking forward to, Ann Romney and Chris Christie. And there is no doubt that if you are Chris Christie right now, you're backstage and you are so over all the interviews and all the hype, and you just want to get out there and give the speech.
That's right. Now, it looks like the podium's back here for Archer Davis. As you pointed out earlier, of course, David, this is the man who introduced Barack Obama, now coming out and supporting Mitt Romney. He's also an active surrogate. You see him on the trail stumping for Mitt Romney. There's talk that he wants to run for Congress, actually, in Virginia. This, of course, is the former congressman from Alabama.
And you just heard Robert Gibbs try to completely take him down.
Yes,
yes.
Discredit him pretty, not subtly.
Not subtly at all. He said he had respect for Archer Davis, but no longer has respect. Well, we are joined by our colleague Rick Klein again. Rick, we had Eric Cantor here while Ted Cruz was speaking. We heard a little bit of it. Did you have a chance to listen to Ted Cruz's speech?
I did, yes.
And what was your takeaway? I mean, he seemed to have, to me, just watching a little bit of magnetism that we hadn't seen from many other speakers yet.
Well, he made the podium disappear, which is a really cool trick. He lowered. Look, he's a debate champ, Princeton graduate. Of course.
Really?
We won't. I know he got that in.
Unbelievable.
He was able to get that in.
What? No, but he's a really effective communicator. I think, and taking a lot of people by storm. It really is that magnetism, the message that he's able to put out there. I think a lot of people were buzzing actually about the length of the speech. They felt like it was a little long for the forum because there's been so many short speeches. But the guy's going to be a rock star once he's in the Senate. He's going to be part of this new breed, this growing breed of very strong conservatives. The Jim DeMint group is getting larger with every election.
Mike Lee of Utah.
That's right. Rand Paul joining them, of course, and they're a young group, and they are a dynamic group. And Mitch McConnell may not like everything they're doing with them.
I always wonder, though, sometimes when we build these people up, we say, this person's going to be a rock star, they're going to get to Washington, they're going to change everything. That's a lot of pressure on somebody who, yes, he's been very successful. He apparently went to Princeton. But, it's very different when you're competing with a lot of egos who are trying to grab that mantle of the next generation and the new leader of this fledgling Tea Party movement.
And the Senate, you typically have to stick around forever to have any influence.
Right.
However, that's changing, and you're seeing people that are establishing themselves at a younger age in this. I'm fascinated by the Archer Davis story. Of course, we've got his mirror image next week in Charlie Crist. You want to ask people here about the respect here in the state of Florida they used to have for Charlie Crist. Keep in mind how close Charlie Crist was being to the running mate of John McCain. I mean, this is not an impossible scenario that would have had a much different. What? You look incredulous. It's true. It's true.
It is true.
The Charlie Crist thing is so crazy to me because here's this guy who hugs the president at the stimulus, gets totally obliterated for that, and booted from his party because of Marco Rubio's success, and now without a party decides, I'll hug the president again. Is there any core conviction to that guy whatsoever?
I mean, let's put an over/under of how many voters in Florida or any state have already made the move from John McCain to Barack Obama 4 years later. This is just not a huge demographic. Archer Davis actually represents something that's a little bit larger, at least. I think most people agree this election is going to be closer even than the last one. But yes, I agree with you about Charlie Crist. There's not a lot of respect for him in this or any party right now. I'm actually slightly surprised that the Democrats accepted it. I guess a former Republican governor, it's just too good to give up, but it's Charlie Crist.
I felt the same way where that's just a little bit too easy, right? I mean, this is not somebody that you want to say, wow, that we're really moving hearts and minds here. This was an old line Republican who'd been there and stood fast. No, I think they just want to rub it in a little bit. I think it really is more of a slap back at Archer Davis than it is anything else.
And I think this probably stings just a little bit more. Yep. We want to bring you another moment from a convention past, and this is not, you don't have to dig back to 1856 in your minds. You will remember this from just 4 years ago. Here's a little bit of Sarah Palin from the Republican convention 4 years ago.
Hockey moms, they say the difference between a hockey mom and a pit bull, lipstick. Here's a little news flash for those reporters and commentators. I'm not going to Washington to seek their good opinion. I'm going to Washington to serve the people of this great country. This is a man who can give an entire speech about the wars America is fighting and never use the word victory except when he's talking about his own campaign.
A little Sarah Palin memory lane there. ABC News' Emily Friedman, your guys' brilliant and intrepid Romney campaign off-air reporter, just reported that Condoleezza Rice and Tim Pawlenty are sitting with the Romney boys in anticipation of watching Ann Romney's speech in just a little bit.
The people that could have been vice president, right? Who wasn't on that short list? Those two are. Talk about rising stars. This is an interesting story here. Nikki Haley, elected, of course, as a Tea Party candidate in 2010, South Carolina. But her star has dimmed quite a bit. With the help of Sarah Palin. Her star has dimmed quite a bit. She's not particularly popular in the state. There is a great deal of animosity within the party in the state about her. She's not one of the old boys. They want to let her know that. And she's had a very tough time pushing anything through a Republican legislature.
It has been a tough time for her. You know, another person who helped her quite a bit in that race was Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney put her on the national radar screen, kind of gave her a mainstream stamp of approval pretty early on. He was working really hard in those races, knowing that he'd have a chance to cash those chits in. How did he do in South Carolina?
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember how that worked out for her.
I don't think it worked out so well.
No.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
No.
Let's take a little listen to what Nikki Haley has to say.
As the proud governor of South Carolina, we build things in the Palmetto State. We build planes, we build cars. We have 3 of the 4 largest tire producers in the world and are about to become the #1 tire producing state in the country. And not too long ago, the Wall Street Journal said, anyone still thinking the U.S. has lost its manufacturing chops hasn't been to South Carolina. We have so much potential and so much to be proud of. But like so many states, we have our challenges, whether they be unemployment or education or poverty. And like so many of my governors, I work day in and day out to try and improve the lives of the people of my state. And sadly, the hardest part of my job continues to be this federal government, this administration, and this president. As I said, my parents loved that when they came to America, if you worked hard, the only things that could stop you were the limits you placed on yourself. Unfortunately, these past few years, you can work hard, try to be as successful as possible, follow the rules. And President Barack Obama will do everything he can to stand in your way. South Carolina recently passed one of the most innovative illegal immigration laws in the country. What did this president, who has failed to secure our borders and address this issue in any meaningful way, do? He sued us. If this president refuses to secure our borders, refuses to protect our citizens from the dangers of illegal immigration, then states have to take it upon ourselves. We said in South Carolina that if you have to show a picture ID to buy Sudafed, if you have to show a picture ID to set foot on an airplane, then you should have to show picture ID to protect the one of the most valuable, most central, sacred rights and blessed within America, the right to vote. And what happened? President Obama stopped us. And now we come to the most unbelievable of them all. In 2009, South Carolina was blessed to welcome a great American company that chose to stay in our country to continue to do business. That company was Boeing. Boeing started a new line for their 787 Dreamliner, creating 1,000 new jobs in South Carolina, giving our state a shot in the arm when we truly needed it. At the same time, they expanded their job numbers in Washington state by 2,000. Not a single person was hurt by their decision, not one. And what did President Obama and his National Labor Relations Board do? They sued this iconic American company. It was shameful and not worthy of the promise of America. But we did one of the things we do best in South Carolina. We got loud. We're fighters in South Carolina, and as we fought, we watched an amazing thing happen. You fought with us. And guess what? We won. A few months ago, I sat on the tarmac at the Boeing facility in North Charleston and watched as a new Mac Daddy plane rolled onto the runway, sporting a Made with Pride in South Carolina decal and surrounded by, get ready for it, 6,000 non-union employees cheering, smiling, and so proud of what they had built. We deserve a president who won't sacrifice American jobs and American workers to pacify the bullying union bosses he counts as his political allies. American businesses deserve a federal government that doesn't stand in their way, not one that tries to chase them overseas. Slighting American ingenuity and innovation, that's what this president has meant to South Carolina. That's what this president has meant to this governor. And that's why this governor will not stop fighting until we send him home back to Chicago and send Mitt and Ann Romney to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I have had the pleasure of knowing Mitt Romney for several years now, and there is so much to appreciate about him. He fixes things. He's results-driven. He's taken broken companies and made them successful. He took a failing Olympics and made it a source of pride for our country. He went into a Democratic state, cut taxes, brought in jobs, and improved education. Oh, and by the way, he actually balanced his budget. This is a man at peace with who he is, with the challenges he faces, and with what he intends to accomplish. This is a man, not just a candidate looking to win an election, but a leader yearning to return our nation to its greatest potential. And this is a man who has a silver bullet, his greatest asset by far, the next First Lady of the United States, Ann Romney. The perfect combination of strength and grace. She does what so many women in America do. She balances in an exceptional way. She raised 5 amazing boys, battled MS, is a breast cancer survivor, and through it all was a true partner to Mitt. Ann Romney makes all women proud by the way she has conducted her life as a strong woman of faith, as a mother, as a wife, and as a true patriot. She's an amazing inspiration for me and for so many women across the country. Not too long ago, I traveled to Michigan to campaign for the Romneys. Towards the end of the day, 2 self-described independents came up to me and said, "We like what we hear about Governor Romney. And although we don't know everything about him, what we do know, without a doubt, is that we deserve better than what we have today." They are so right. We deserve a president who will turn our economy around. We deserve a president who will balance our budget. We deserve a president who will reform and protect our retirement programs for future generations. We deserve a president who will fight for American companies, not against them. We deserve a president who will strengthen our military, not destabilize them. America deserves better than what we have today. We deserve a President Mitt Romney. Thank you. God bless you. And may he continue to bless the United States of America.
Please welcome to the stage
Governor Nikki Haley of South Carolina. Certainly, as Amy was saying, some controversy in her home state. It hasn't been smooth sailing. Her approval ratings are not fantastic, but she no doubt is a rising star in the party. We now see the First Lady of Puerto Rico, Mrs. Fortunio, take the podium, and she's going to introduce Ann Romney, Rick, because Ann Romney chose her. She told Diane's, we learned earlier today from a Romney advisor that Ann Romney really wanted, after they bonded during the Puerto Rico primary, and she went down there for a couple days, they became fast friends, and she said, I wanted this woman to introduce me.
Good, and it's part of a good story for the Republican Party to tell. That always works out well, doesn't it?
They might have something to do with each other. Listen, ABC News Washington Post poll, a new result just came out, lifted at 10 o'clock Eastern. Now we can report these historic unfavorable ratings that we've been talking about for Mitt Romney. Take a look at these numbers. He is at 40% unfavorable, 51% favorable, and look how that compares to Barack Obama. 40% favorable for Romney, 50% favorable for Obama. That gap is not good news for Mitt Romney.
No, it most certainly is not good news for Mitt Romney. And it has been persistently bad news. This has been going on for months and months and months. And you get to a point where you have to start to realize that the Romney campaign getting to that point, people are not going to love Mitt Romney. It's just not going to happen. And David, I'm just struck by the fact that we've sat through the first couple hours of these speeches. We have heard almost nothing about Mitt Romney. This has not been the Mitt Romney show so far. It's the Mitt Romney convention. Clearly in this hour, we're going to start to hear the Mitt Romney story. But you haven't heard speakers run to the stage to talk about the man who is now the head of the party, the person that they are bringing the banner of battle against President Obama with.
And this morning, his team is saying he's a really shy guy, so this is a great opportunity for others to tell his story, since he doesn't like to talk about himself in these personal terms. But you're right, we're not hearing a ton of that. Obviously, his wife is going to take care of a lot of that to a very large television audience. I'm sure Paul Ryan will do a little bit of that business, too, in tomorrow night's very big speech. Christie will give some credence to that. But I actually think that it's going to be on Mitt Romney to tell about Mitt Romney. Now, we know we're going to hear from some of his best friends of a lifetime in work at Bain, Olympians who were part of the 2002 Salt Lake City Olympics that he saved and turned around, as his book is called. So some of that will be fleshed out on Thursday night, but it also is going to be up to Mitt Romney to tell us about Mitt Romney.
Well, clearly that. We're going to have to see a different side of him, and he has given some really good speeches in his career. People don't remember that all the time. Because he has this reputation now of being aloof and being gaffe-prone and all that, but he is actually a very good public speaker, and he has risen to big moments in the past. I have no doubt that it's going to be a big moment. His New Hampshire primary
victory night, I thought, was one of the best speeches of the whole campaign season for him. So it's not even that long ago. This season he's given some really good big speeches.
That's right, and even really before he started in politics. I remember seeing him in 2002 at the Winter Olympics addressing folks there at the opening ceremonies, and you couldn't help but watch that and say, this is a guy that has a talented public speaking style and has a very bright future in politics should he choose to pursue it. So it's surprising to me that he's gained that reputation over time. He will have that opportunity, obviously. I think Ann Romney, we know she's going to be a star. Question is how she brings it tonight.
And here she is, the star of the night. The would-be First Lady, the next First Lady. She doesn't get introduced that way, the next First Lady of the United States, but you can tell that there are signs throughout this arena. Women love Ann. In case it was lost on anyone, that part of what Ann Romney can do is be an ambassador to court the women's vote. There are signs all over this arena that say women love Ann. And now she's going to testify for her husband. Here, let's listen to Ann Romney.
I can't wait to see what we're going to all do together. This is going to be so exciting. Just so you all know, the hurricane has hit landfall, and I think we should all take this moment and recognize that fellow Americans are in its path, and just hope and pray that all remain safe and no life is lost and no property is lost. So we should all be thankful for this great country and grateful for our first responders and all that keep us safe in this wonderful country. Well, I want to talk to you tonight not about politics and not about party. And while there are many important issues we'll hear discussed in this convention and throughout this campaign, tonight I want to talk to you from my heart about our hearts. I want to talk not about what divides us, but what holds us together as an American family. I want to talk to you tonight about that one great thing that unites us, that one great thing that brings us our greatest joy when times are good, and the deepest solace in our dark hours. Tonight, I want to talk to you about love. I want to talk to you about the deep and abiding love I have for a man I met at a dance many years ago, and the profound love I have, and I know we share for this country. I want to talk to you about that love so deep, only a mother can fathom it, the love we have for our children and our children's children. And I want us to think tonight about the love we share for those Americans, our brothers and our sisters who are going through difficult times, whose days are never easy, nights are always long, and whose work never seems done. They are here among us tonight in this hall. They are here in neighborhoods across Tampa and all across America. The parents who lie awake at night side by side, wondering how they'll be able to pay the mortgage or make the rent. The single dad who's working extra hours tonight so that his kids can buy some new clothes to go back to school, can take a school trip or play a sport, so his kids can feel, you know, just like other kids. And the working moms who love their jobs but would like to work just a little less to spend more time with the kids. But that's just out of the question with this economy. Or how about that couple who would like to have another child but wonder how they'll afford it? I have been all across this country, and I know a lot of you guys. And I have seen and heard stories of how hard it is to get ahead now. You know what? I've heard your voices. They've said to me, I'm running in place and we just can't get ahead. Sometimes I think that late at night, if we were all silent for just a few moments and listened carefully, we could hear a collective sigh from the moms and dads across America who made it through another day and know that they'll make it through another one tomorrow. But in the end of that day moment, they just aren't sure how. And if you listen carefully, you'll hear the women sighing a little bit more than the men. It's how it is, isn't it? It's the moms who have always had to work a little harder to make everything right. It's the moms of this nation, single, married, widowed, who really hold this country together. We're the mothers. We're the wives. We're the grandmothers, we're the big sisters, we're the little sisters, and we are the daughters. You know it's true, don't you? I love you, women! And I hear your voices. Those are my favorite fans down there. You are the ones that have to do a little bit more, and you know what it's like to work a little harder during the day to earn the respect you deserve at work. And then you come home at night and help with a book report, just because it has to be done. You know what those late night phone calls with an elderly parent are like, and the long weekend drives just to see how they're doing. You know the fastest route to the local emergency room and which doctors actually answer the phone call when you call at night. By the way, I know all about that. You know what it's like to sit in that graduation ceremony and wonder how it was that so many long days turned to years that went by so quickly. You are the best of America. You. You are the hope of America. There would not be an America without you. Tonight, we salute you and sing your praises. I'm not sure if men really understand this, but I don't think there's a woman in America who really expects her life to be easy. In our own ways, we all know better. You know what, and that's fine. We don't want easy. But the last few years have been harder than they needed to be. It's all the little things that the price at the pump you just can't believe, the grocery bills that just get bigger, all those things that used to be free, like school sports, are now one more bill to pay. It's all the little things that pile up to become big things, and the big things, the good jobs, the chance at college, that home you want to buy, just get harder. Everything has become harder. We're too smart to know there aren't easy answers, but we're not dumb enough to accept that there aren't better answers. And that is where this boy I met at a high school dance comes in. His name is Mitt Romney, and you should really get to know him. I could tell you why I fell in love with him. He was tall, laughed a lot. He was nervous. Girls like that. It shows a guy's a little intimidated. He was nice to my parents, but he was also really glad when they weren't around. I don't mind that, but more than anything, he made me laugh. Some of you might not know this, but I am the granddaughter of a Welsh coal miner. He was determined. He was determined that his kids get out of the mines. My dad got his first job when he was 6 years old in a little village in Wales called Santorum, cleaning bottles at the Collier's Arms. When he was 15, Dad came to America. In our country, he saw hope and an opportunity to escape from poverty. He moved to a small town in the great state of Michigan. Michigan! There he started a business, one he built by himself, by the way. He raised a family and he became mayor of our town. My dad would often remind my brothers and me how fortunate we were to grow up in a place like America. He wanted us to have every opportunity that came with life in this country, and so he pushed us to be our best and give our all. Inside the houses that lined the streets of our town, there were a lot of good fathers teaching their sons and daughters those same values. I didn't know it at the time, but one of those dads was my future father-in-law, George Romney. Mitt's dad never graduated from college. Instead, he became a carpenter. He worked hard, he became the head of a car company, and then the governor of Michigan. When Mitt and I met and fell in love, we were determined not to let anything stand in the way of our life together. I was an Episcopalian, he was a Mormon. We were very young, both still in college. There were many reasons to delay marriage, and you know what? We just didn't care. We got married and moved into a basement apartment. We walked to class together, shared the housekeeping, ate a lot of pasta and tuna fish. Our desk was a door propped up on sawhorses. Our dining room table was a fold-down ironing board in the kitchen. But those were the best days. Then our first son came along. All at once, I'm 22 years old with a baby and a husband who's going to business school and law school at the same time. And I can tell you, probably like every other girl who finds herself in a new life, far from family and friends, with a new baby and a new husband, that it dawned on me that I had absolutely no idea what I was getting into. Well, that was 42 years ago. I've survived. We now have 5 sons and 18 beautiful grandchildren. I'm still in love with that boy I met at a high school dance, and he still makes me laugh. I read somewhere that Mitt and I have a storybook marriage. Well, let me tell you something. In the storybooks I read, there never were long, long rainy winter afternoons in a house with 5 boys screaming at once. And those storybooks never seem to have chapters called MS or breast cancer. A storybook marriage? Nope, not at all. What Mitt Romney and I have is a real marriage. Good and decent man for what he is. He's warm and loving and patient. He has tried to live his life with a set of values centered on family, faith, and love of one's fellow man. From the time we were first married, I've seen him spend countless hours helping others. I've seen him drop everything to help a friend in trouble, and been there when late night calls of panic come from a member of our church whose child has been taken to the hospital. You may not agree with Mitt's positions on issues or his politics. By the way, Massachusetts is only 13% Republican, so it's not like it's a shock to me. But let me say this to every American who is thinking about who should be our next president. No one will work harder. No one will care more. And no one will move heaven and earth like Mitt Romney to make this country a better place to live. It's true that Mitt's been successful at each new challenge he's taken on. You know what? It actually amazes me to see his history of success being attacked. Are those really the values that made our country great? As a mom of 5 boys, do we want to raise our children to be afraid of success? Do we send our children out in the world with the advice, try to do okay? And let's be honest, if the last 4 years had been more successful, do we really think there would be this attack on Mitt Romney's success? Of course not. Mitt will be the first to tell you that he is the most fortunate man in the world. He had 2 loving parents who gave him strong values and taught him the value of work. He had the chance to get the education his father never had. But as his partner on this amazing journey, I can tell you Mitt Romney was not handed success. He built it. Massachusetts after graduate school and got a job. I saw the long hours that started with that first job. I was there when he had a small group of friends talking about starting a new company. I was there when they struggled and wondered if the whole idea just wasn't going to work. Mitt's reaction was to work harder and press on. Today, that company has become another great American success story. Has it made those who started the company successful made them successful beyond their dreams? Yes, it has. It allowed us to give our sons the chance at good educations and made all those long hours of book reports and homework worth every minute. It's given us the deep satisfaction of being able to help others in ways that we could never have imagined. This is important. I want you to hear what I'm going to say. Mitt doesn't like to talk about how he has helped others because he sees it as a privilege, not a political talking point. We are no different than the millions of Americans who quietly help their neighbors, their churches, and their communities. They don't do it so that others will think more of them. They do it because there is no greater joy. Give, and it shall be given unto you. But because this is America, that small company which grew has helped so many others lead better lives. The jobs that grew from the risks they took have become college educations and first homes. That success has helped fund scholarships, pensions, and retirement funds. This is the genius of America. Dreams fulfilled help others launch new dreams. At every turn in his life, this man I met at a high school dance has helped lift up others. He did it with the Olympics when many wanted to give up. He did it in Massachusetts, where he guided the state from economic crisis to unemployment of just 4.7%. Under Mitt, Massachusetts' schools were the best in the nation, the best. He started something that I really love. He started the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship, which give the top 25% of high school graduates a 4-year tuition-free scholarship. This is the man America needs. This is the man who will wake up every day with a determination to solve the problems that others say can't be solved, to fix what others say is beyond repair. This is the man who will work harder than anyone so that we can work a little less hard. I can't tell you what will happen over the next 4 years, but I can only stand here tonight as a wife and a mother and a grandmother, an American, and make you this solemn commitment. This man will not fail. Down. This man will lift up America. It has been 47 years since that tall, kind of charming young man brought me home from our first dance. Not every day since has been easy, but he still makes me laugh, and never once did I have a single reason to doubt that I was the luckiest woman in the world tonight. I said tonight I wanted to talk to you about love. Look into your hearts. This is our country. This is our future. These are our children and grandchildren. You can trust Mitt. He loves America. He will take us to a better place, just as he took me home safely from that dance. Give him that chance. Give America that chance. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless the United States of America.
My girl, If Mitt doesn't come, that's malpractice. There he is.
There he is. Coming out on stage.
Now, was she really surprised?
No, but she feigned it. Well,
she did a good job of that.
They certainly look like a couple that could live in the White House, don't they?
That's never been the problem with the Romneys.
Well, there you had it. Mitt Romney on stage congratulating his wife after the biggest public speaking engagement she's ever had. And Amy and Rick, that speech to me, it was in two parts, right? There was the part that was purely about women voters and to be an ambassador to women, and then there was the part that was purely about please trust my husband, let me tell you about him, and there was no subtlety in this speech. It was like taking all the polling we talk about every day and everything we've seen in focus groups and just putting it into a speech text to kind of address some of the deficiencies in the Mitt Romney candidacy.
Well, but it also goes to the heart of the problem here for Mitt Romney, and that it's been the case for many voters about Mitt Romney, which is they just want a solid answer about who he is and what he stands for. They don't want all of this what we said was subtlety, but what other people think of obfuscation of what he is and what he stands for. Just come right out and say it. And she also, I think there are two things that she did. The first thing, yes, she directly addressed women. I love women. Mitt Romney will love women too. But the other piece of it is, she didn't try to make you love Mitt Romney, right? She said, he's a good man, I can attest to that. But she didn't come out there to say, you know what, you should love him as much as I do. You should think he's as funny as I do. You should think he's as great. She said, you probably might not agree with him on a whole lot of things, but the one thing you can know about him, he's a good man. You
can trust him.
You can trust him.
That
exactly.
was,
Yeah, we thought that Christie was the blunt instrument of the night. I think there was absolutely nothing even a little bit soft around the edges about that speech to my mind. I was looking for a story or two. I was looking for some more tales of the boys being raised in that house. I feel like, this was a speech that went in there. They knew what they had to do, what they were trying to do, and they basically just put it on paper.
But just aesthetics and performance delivered quite well.
Absolutely.
There was no nervousness to her.
No.
She was so smooth and skilled, and the cutaway shots of the boys tearing up in the box and watching her, that stuff is gold, right? So, yes, I agree with you. It's a blunt speech, but the imagery, and I will say something also about the red dress, because when we were watching the speech, we had this picture up of the Romneys meeting Nancy Reagan, and there's nothing, I think, that a red dress on a spouse, a female spouse in politics, that evokes more than Nancy Reagan. She made the red dress famous, and I that was sort of, as soon as she walked out in red, I thought, how Nancy Reagan-esque.
And I do think we need to give Ann Romney her due here.
Sure.
That was a very well-delivered speech.
Oh, yeah.
Every single piece of it, it was natural. She did not seem nervous at all. She talked to Diane Sawyer about being so nervous about this and about how worried she was with the teleprompter. Not 1 minute of that did she seem nervous. Now, as we discussed, we don't know how much of it was spontaneous, though, which could have come from some nervousness.
Here
all right, here he comes. This guy looks fired up. Look at him. He's like a tiger ready to pounce.
Well, as they used to say at Bruce concerts, here's the big man.
All right. There we go.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Well, this stage and this moment are very improbable for me. A New Jersey Republican delivering the keynote address to our national convention. From a state with 700,000 more Democrats than Republicans. A New Jersey Republican stands before you tonight. Proud of my party, proud of my state, and proud of my country. Now I am the son of an Irish father and a Sicilian mother. My dad, who I'm blessed to have here with me tonight, is gregarious, outgoing and lovable. My mom, who I lost 8 years ago, was the enforcer. Now, she made sure we all knew who set the rules. Tell it to you this way, in the automobile of life, Dad was just a passenger. Mom was the driver. Now, they both lived hard lives. Dad grew up in poverty. And after returning from Army service, he worked at the Breyers ice cream plant in the 1950s. Now, with that job and the GI Bill, he put himself through Rutgers University at night to become the first in his family to earn a college degree. And our first family picture was on his graduation day, with my mom beaming next to him, 6 months pregnant with me. Now, Mom also came from nothing. She was raised by a single mother who took 3 different buses every day to get to work. And Mom spent the time that she was supposed to be a kid actually raising children, her younger brother and younger sister. She was tough as nails and didn't suffer fools at all, and the truth was, she couldn't afford to. She spoke the truth, bluntly, directly, and without much varnish. I am her son. I was her son as I listened to Darkness on the Edge of Town with my high school friends on the Jersey Shore. I was her son when I moved into that studio apartment with Mary Pat to start a marriage that's now 26 years old. I was her son as I coached our sons, Andrew and Patrick, on the fields of Mendham, and as I watched with pride as our daughters, Sarah and Bridget, marched with their soccer teams in the Labor Day parade. And I'm still her son today as governor, following the rules she taught me, to speak from the heart and to fight for your principles. You see, Mom never thought you'd get extra credit just for speaking the truth. And the greatest lesson that Mom ever taught me, though, was this one. She told me there would be times in your life when you have to choose between being loved and being respected. Now, she said to always pick being respected. She told me that love without respect was always fleeting, but that respect could grow into real and lasting love. Now, of course, she was talking about women. But I've learned over time that it applies just as much to leadership. In fact, I think that advice applies to America more than ever today. You see, I believe we have become paralyzed by our desire to be loved. Now, our founding fathers had the wisdom to know that social acceptance and popularity were fleeting, and that this country's principles needed to be rooted in strengths greater than the passions and the emotions of the times. But our leaders today have decided it's more important to be popular, to say and do what's easy, and say yes rather than to say no, when no is what is required. In recent years, we as a country have too often chosen the same path. It's been easy for our leaders to say, not us, not now, in taking on the really tough issues. And unfortunately, we've stood silently by and let them get away with it. But tonight, I say enough. Tonight, I say together, let's make a much different choice. Tonight, we are speaking up for ourselves and stepping up. Tonight, we're beginning to do what is right and what is necessary to make America great again. We are demanding that our leaders stop tearing each other down and work together to take action on the big things facing America. Tonight, we are going to do what my mother taught me. Tonight, we're going to choose respect over love. See, we're not afraid. We are not afraid. We're taking our country back because we are the great-grandchildren of the men and women who broke their backs in the name of American ingenuity, the grandchildren of the greatest generation, the sons and daughters of immigrants, the brothers and sisters of everyday heroes, the neighbors of entrepreneurs and firefighters, teachers and farmers, veterans and factory workers, and everyone in between who shows up not just on the big days or the good days, but on the bad days and the hard days, each and every day, all 365 of them. You see, we are the United States of America. Now, it's up to us. We must lead the way our citizens live. To lead as my mother insisted I live. Not by avoiding truths, especially the hard ones, but by facing up to them and being better for it. We can't afford to do anything less. Now, I know this because this was the challenge in New Jersey. When I came into office, I could continue on the same path that led to wealth and jobs and people leaving our state. Or I could do the job people elected me to do the big things. Now, there were those who said it couldn't be done, that the problems were too big, too politically charged, and too broken to fix. But we were on a path we could no longer afford to follow. Now, they said it was impossible, this is what they told me, to cut taxes in a state where taxes were raised 115 times in the 8 years before I became governor. That it was impossible to balance a budget at the same time with an $11 billion deficit. But 3 years later, we have 3 balanced budgets in a row with lower taxes. We did it. They said it was impossible to touch the third rail of politics, to take on the public sector unions, and to reform a pension and health benefit system that was headed to bankruptcy. But with bipartisan leadership, we saved taxpayers $132 billion over 30 years and saved retirees their pensions. We did it. They said it was impossible to speak the truth to the teachers union. They were just too powerful. A real teacher tenure reform that demands accountability and ends the guarantee of a job for life regardless of performance. They said it would never happen. But for the first time in 100 years, with bipartisan support, you know the answer. We did it. Now, the disciples of yesterday's politics, they always underestimate the will of the people. They assumed our people were selfish, that when told of the difficult problems, the tough choices, and the complicated solutions, that they would simply turn their backs, that they would decide it was every man for himself. They were wrong. The people of New Jersey stepped up. They shared in the sacrifice. And you know what else they did? They rewarded politicians who led instead of politicians who pandered. But you know, we shouldn't be surprised. We shouldn't be surprised. We've never been a country to shy away from the truth. Our history shows that we stand up when it counts. And it's this quality that has defined America's character and our significance in the world. Now, I know this simple truth, and I am not afraid to say it. Our ideas are right for America, and their ideas have failed America. Let me be clear with the American people tonight. Here's what we believe as Republicans and what they believe as Democrats. We believe in telling hardworking families the truth about our country's fiscal realities, telling them what they already know. The math of federal spending does not add up. With $5 trillion in debt added over the last 4 years, we have no other option but to make the hard choices, cut federal spending, and fundamentally reduce the size of this government. Want to know what they believe? They believe that the American people don't want to hear the truth about the extent of our fiscal difficulties. They believe the American people need to be coddled by big government. They believe the American people are content to live the lie with them. They're wrong. We believe in telling our seniors the truth about our overburdened entitlements. We know seniors not only want these programs to survive, but they just as badly want them secured for their grandchildren. Our seniors are not selfish. Here's what they believe. They believe seniors will always put themselves ahead of their grandchildren. And here's what they do. They prey on their vulnerabilities and scare them with misinformation for the single, cynical purpose of winning the next election. Here's their plan. Whistle a happy tune while driving us off the fiscal cliff, as long as they are behind the wheel of power when we fall. Now, we believe that the majority of teachers in America know our system must be reformed to put students first so that America can compete. Now, teachers don't teach to become rich or famous. They teach because they love children. We believe that we should honor and reward the good ones while doing what's best for our nation's future, demanding accountability, demanding higher standards, and demanding the best teacher in every classroom in America. Get ready. Get ready. Here's what they believe. They believe the educational establishment will always put themselves ahead of children, that self-interest will always trump common sense. They believe in pitting unions against teachers, educators against parents, lobbyists against children. They believe in teachers' unions. We believe in teachers. We believe that if we tell the people the truth, that they will act bigger than the pettiness we see in Washington, D.C. We believe it's possible to forge bipartisan compromise and stand up for our conservative principles. You see, because it's always been the power of our ideas, not our rhetoric, that attracts people to our party. We win when we make it about what needs to be done. We lose when we play along with their game of scaring and dividing. For make no mistake about it, everybody, the problems are too big to let the American people lose. The slowest economic recovery in decades, a spiraling out of control deficit, and an education system that's failing to compete in the world. It doesn't matter how we got here. There's enough blame to go around. What matters is what we do now. See, I know we can fix our problems. When there are people in the room who care more about doing the job they were elected to do than they worry about winning re-election, it's possible to work together, achieve principled compromise, and get results for the people who gave us these jobs in the first place. The people have no patience for any other way anymore. It's simple. We need politicians to care more about doing something and less about being something. Yeah. Amen. And believe me, If we could do this in a blue state like New Jersey with a conservative Republican governor, Washington, D.C. is out of excuses. Leadership delivers. Leadership counts. Leadership matters. And here's the great news I came here tonight to bring you. We have this leader for America. We have a nominee who will tell us the truth and who will lead with conviction. And now he has a running mate who will do the same. We have Governor Mitt Romney and Congressman Paul Ryan, and we need to make him the next president and vice president of the United States. You see, because I know Mitt Romney. I know Mitt Romney, and Mitt Romney will tell us the hard truths we need to hear to put us back on a path to growth and create good-paying private sector jobs again in America. Mitt Romney will tell us the hard truths we need to hear to end the torrent of debt that is compromising our future and burying our economy. Mitt Romney will tell us the hard truths we need to hear to end the debacle of putting the world's greatest healthcare system in the hands of federal bureaucrats and putting those bureaucrats between an American citizen and her doctor. Now, we ended an era of absentee leadership without purpose or principle in New Jersey. I'm here to tell you tonight, it is time to end this era of absentee leadership in the Oval Office and send real leaders back to the White House. America needs Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, and we need them right now. But we got to tell each other the truth, right? Listen, there is doubt and fear for our future in every corner of our country. I have traveled all the country and I've seen this myself. These feelings are real. This moment is real. And it's a moment like this where some skeptics wonder if American greatness is over. They wonder how those who have come before us had the spirit and the tenacity to lead America to a new era of greatness in the face of challenge. Not to look around and say, not me, but to look around and say, yes, me. Now, I have an answer tonight for the skeptics and the naysayers, the dividers and the defenders of the status quo. I have faith in us. I know we can be the men and women our country calls on us to be tonight. I believe in America and her history, and there's only one thing missing now: leadership. It takes leadership that you don't get from reading a poll. You see, Mr. President, real leaders don't follow polls. Real leaders change polls. And that's what we need. That's what we need to do now. We need to change polls through the power of our principles. We need to change polls through the strength of our convictions. Tonight, our duty is to tell the American people the truth. Our problems are big and the solutions will not be painless. We all must share in the sacrifice, and any leader that tells us differently is simply not telling the truth. Now, I think tonight of the greatest generation. We look back and marvel at their courage, overcoming the Great Depression, fighting Nazi tyranny, standing up for freedom around the world. Well, now it's our time to answer history's call. For make no mistake, every generation will be judged, and so will we. And what will our children and grandchildren say of us? Will they say we buried our heads in the sand, we assuaged ourselves with the creature comforts we've acquired, that our problems were too big and we were too small, that someone else should make a difference because we can't? Or will they say of us that we stood up and made the tough choices that needed to be made to preserve our way of life? You see, I don't know about you, but I don't want my children and grandchildren to have to read in a history book what it was like to live in an American century. I don't want their only inheritance to be an enormous government that has overtaxed, overspent, and overborrowed a great people into second-class citizenship. I want them to live in a second American century. A second American century. A second American century of strong economic growth where those who are willing to work hard will have good paying jobs to support their families and reach their dreams. A second American century where real American exceptionalism is not a political punchline, but is evident to everyone in the world just by watching the way our government conducts its business every day and the way Americans live their lives. A second American century where our military is strong, our values are sure, our work ethic is unmatched, and our Constitution remains a model for anyone in the world struggling for liberty. Let us choose a path that will be remembered for generations to come. Standing strong for freedom will make the next century as great an American century as the last one. You see, this is the American way. We have never been victims of destiny. We have always been the masters of our own. And I know you agree with me on this. I will not be part of the generation that fails that test, and neither will you. All right, it's now time to stand up. Let's stand up. Everybody stand up. Stand up, because there's no time left to waste. If you're willing to stand up with me for America's future, I will stand up with you. If you're willing to fight with me for Mitt Romney, I will fight with you. If you're willing to hear the truth about the hard road ahead and the rewards for America that truth will bear, I'm here to begin with you this new era of truth-telling. Tonight, we choose the path that has always defined our nation's history. Tonight, we finally and firmly answer the call that so many generations have had the courage to answer before us. Tonight, we stand up for Mitt Romney as the next President of the United States, and together, together, everybody, together, we will stand up once again for American greatness for our children and grandchildren. God bless you, and God bless America.
Governor Christie, the keynote address now in the history books for the 2012 GOP convention. And it was not, I have to say, it was not as combative and directly sort of taking down President Obama as much as I anticipated, Amy.
Well, he is filling in the gaps for Mitt Romney. And really what it is, it's about competency. We heard a lot about the "we built it" hashtag tonight, but I think there was another theme running through it, and it was, this is a party, and Mitt Romney's a man who can actually follow through and do what needs to be done to get the country back on track. That's the kind of stuff that they're trying to sell outside of this hall. Inside the hall, he's still got a very good reception. He threw some good red meat to the crowd, but this was a very good speech, but it was not the kind of keynote speech that you walk away with and go, wow, that's something that's going to propel him into the discussion tomorrow. And Romney certainly stole the show tonight.
The other thing about Chris Christie, I thought, in this speech is that it was a lot about Chris Christie and the New Jersey experiment. We've got two political pros here to talk about it with. We've got Hogan Gidley and Alice Stewart. You guys battled for months against Mitt Romney, and here you are sitting at his convention. All night long, every speaker, Rick Santorum, who you guys work for, and all night long we've been hearing from speakers sort of telling their story, and certainly then getting to Mitt Romney. But this hasn't been a night about sort of all about Mitt Romney. It's been a lot about the Republican Party. Hogan, why is that?
That's a great question. I think a part of that is because we want to show that we have a broad tent, that there are lots of people, lots of personalities. We have a deep bench in the Republican Party, and we want to showcase what we have and what talent we have out there. And I think this was a great night to show that, right? I mean, Rick Santorum put up a valiant effort with little resources. Ann Romney, a wonderful woman, a powerful woman, showing what she was able to do, putting out some anecdotes about Mitt and making him more human. And then Christie, someone who comes at you, bare-knuckle brawler, taking it right to you and firing up the crowd. I mean, I think tonight was about it was the open of the convention. I mean, obviously, the Hurricane stole the show the first night. Tonight was the open of the show, and they wanted to start with a bang, and they sure did tonight.
Alice, we hear a lot from Democrats and Republicans. They say the thing about Barack Obama is people might not approve of the job he's doing on the economy, but they like him personally. Is that an issue even somebody like Christie has to tread lightly on, and maybe a reason why we didn't see him do the Christie rock'em sock'em robots that we see back in New Jersey?
Well, and everyone will agree that the president is a very likable guy. He's very popular, and everyone likes him. But I think Christie hit it right off the bat at the very beginning. We don't need someone who's going to say yes and tell us exactly what we want to hear. We need someone that's going to say no every now and then and tell us what we need to hear, not what we want to hear. So I think the governor hit a subtle jab to the president. It's not about, I'm just going to tell you everything you want to hear and everything's going to be wine and roses and great, because we've had a lot of broken promises from the Obama administration. Right. And what we've seen tonight is we've seen each of the speakers were able to tell their own personal stories. We heard a great story from Rick Santorum talking about the hands that built this country and the precious hands of Bella. But we also heard a common theme of, we did build this, which is a jab at the president.
And Ann Romney was making a very direct appeal the whole first half of her speech to women voters. There was nothing subtle about it. We've been talking. She said,
"Really,
I love you, women." You know, so it was pretty on the nose. But she spent half her speech doing that. It was not entirely dedicated to sketching out Mitt with the anecdotes. We got a little bit of that. Was that a good use of her time?
I think it was fantastic. And I think we saw setting that up. Nikki Haley did a great job, and I think it showed the incorporation of women in this campaign. But I think Ann Romney did a great job of saying, I'm going to speak from my heart to your heart. This is about love. And she talked about Governor Romney and their relationship, but she was able to put a face on the women of this country and how, you know, you're the one that cleans the dishes and changes the diapers, but you're the backbone of the family and you're the backbone of this country, and you have a vital role in your own family, but also in this election process.
I do want to talk, though, Hogan, about the fact that we didn't hear a lot about Mitt Romney tonight. We did hear some personal stories from Ann Romney.
Sure.
But we really heard a lot more about the personal stories of the speakers than we did the here's how Mitt Romney's going to make things better. So what do you think that was about?
That's a great question. You know, again, I think that it was a long, hard-fought primary, and I think a lot of the folks out here, you know, Mitt's the guy that is the nominee, but a lot of folks have their heart set on somebody else. I mean, let's be honest, okay? And I think it was important to get a lot of stories out there about who we are as Republicans and who we are as a party, and I think that the speakers did a pretty good job of that. I mean, look, the convention speeches build and build and build, and they crescendo with Mitt Romney at the end, right? So all these things, there was plenty of Mitt Romney, plenty of Paul Ryan in Rick Santorum's speech, plenty of that in Nikki Haley's speech as well. But, you know, you talk about the women issue. I mean, the Romney campaign, they've seen the polls. They know what they have to do to try and attract these women, right? So they're gonna build their convention around that theme and try to undergird, as you mentioned in the open, fill the gaps where Mitt Romney's missing it, and then Mitt Romney will come up and clean up at the end, I guarantee you.
Republican political pros, it's so good to have your insights. Hogan Gidley, Alice Stewart, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Great to be here.
Sure, thank y'all.
We're going to head back out now to the floor where David Muir is, ABC News correspondent and anchor who has been covering Mitt Romney. David Muir, You were talking to us earlier this evening about Ann Romney going into the speech tonight. We talked about a little nervousness. My God, that didn't show. She was a very smooth performer tonight. And any word from the Romney campaign on how they think things went for her tonight?
Well, first of all, I can tell you, we don't even perform like that with a teleprompter, and we do it every day. So this was really a performance from Ann Romney tonight. She had talked to us on the plane, obviously, about not liking the prompter, but saying we'll see how it goes tonight. But as you asked, David, I did just talk to a senior strategist who helped work with Ann Romney on that speech. As he was walking toward me, a giant smile on his face. He said he was behind the stage with Governor Romney. He's worked with him for a very long time and said he had never seen the governor as nervous as he was tonight as Ann Romney began that speech. But it wasn't long before that nervousness melted behind stage. And, of course, he emerged onto the stage, as we thought might happen here in the convention hall, to embrace his wife. You could see that smile on his face, and, you do see that on the trail. People often criticize Mitt Romney for not being as likable, as friendly as the president, but that is a moment that no matter what side you're on, when you see the two of them together, and when you see them together on the campaign trail, you know that there is certainly a deep partnership there, and you could see it on that stage displayed tonight. They left the hall here just moments ago, and they were sitting not far off here. And one thing that I think a lot of people were moved by inside this convention hall was the view of the sons watching their mother. I saw that when she came back to take her seat, they were all standing up, all embracing her, the governor coming back to his seat as well. And long into the speech, Governor Christie, the next speech up, he was talking, and I looked back over, and I saw one of the sons still wiping the tears away from underneath his eyes. I think this was a profound moment for this family. Mitt Romney's been running for president for a long time. We've often said that, so we can't forget just how long Ann Romney has been there right by his side, and just really how proud those 5 sons are of their mother, getting up on that stage tonight saying, "I love you, women," and everything else they had hoped she would accomplish there up on the stage tonight.
Now, that was a pretty impressive one. I also want to play something from Christie tonight. We saw the blunt talking Christie, maybe not as red meat as some had wanted or expected, but I want to play you what I think will be the takeaway from his speech tonight.
I believe in America and her history, and there's only one thing missing now: leadership. It takes leadership that you don't get from reading a poll. You see, Mr. President, real leaders don't follow polls. Real leaders change polls.
From the crowd there. Do you think Christie was effective in making the case tonight that it's Republicans who are going to change the way politics are practiced in this country?
Well, that was red meat in this convention hall when he said that. He did take on this president. There's going to be a lot of talk about how long it took for Christie to mention the ticket this year of Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan. But make no mistake, he was up there making the case for them, and this convention hall came alive for him. I have to say, though, in measuring the sort of response here in the convention hall, there was nothing like when Ann Romney was up there, at least as far as tonight's program was concerned. This entire hall, it was dark in here. People were fixed on her. Every line that they were hoping would have impact seemed to have that impact. There were 3 or 4 standing ovations for her. I think people are going to appreciate Governor Christie, particularly in this hall, and Republicans who have been fighting and wanting for the tough talk about fiscal responsibility and what to do with the spending in Washington. He definitely gave supporters who were in this hall who wanted to hear that address tonight what they were looking for, but it was Ann Romney who went out there and tried to reach out to the voters, the deficits that this Romney campaign is feeling right now. And that in particular is among American women. That ABC News Washington Post poll that came out just before we came on the air tonight showing 34% of women polled have a favorable view of Mitt Romney. They've got to do better among women, and Ann Romney was a giant first step in that direction as we now get much closer to Election Day.
And David, if I'm reading my email correctly, it looks like Ann Romney's schedule tomorrow is going to continue to hit on this women's theme. She's going to be out on the trail here in Florida tomorrow with Paul Ryan's wife, isn't she?
Not at all surprising that they would immediately do that. She is often running, and I've got to tell you, when she walked out of here tonight, people were reaching for her, and the smile on her face, especially given the time we spent on the plane with her, flying down here to Florida earlier today when she came back and was very honest with all of us. She had handed out some of those Welsh cakes that she had baked in her home yesterday on the eve of this big speech. She said, "It's going to be from the heart tonight. I'm going to say what I believe." And even though I was helped, she said, by a speechwriter, she said it took a lot of time time I had a lot of input, and she said we had to make a lot of tweaks so that it was something that I would want to say up there. I think that's why we believed what we heard when she delivered it tonight, because she had so much to do with the speech that she gave here inside this Tampa Convention Hall, and no surprise given the momentum she felt in this room that she'll now take that program on the road beginning tomorrow. David and Amy.
David Muir, thank you very much. Our intrepid anchor there on the floor holding up the ABC flag, and of course the ABC Yahoo flag being planted here today for the first time in Tampa at our very first convention. I also want to talk about that poll, mention that poll for a moment that David brought up. He mentioned the favorability issue here. The ABC News Washington Post poll just came out about an hour ago, where we tested the favorability rating of President Obama and Mitt Romney, and what did we find? If we can go and check this out, look at this. Among voters, 40% of voters, only 40%, say they have a favorable view of Mitt Romney. That is the lowest percentage that any candidate coming into his convention has had going back to 1984. The reason we say 1984 is because, well, we really don't know that there weren't really good polls before 1984. Yeah, exactly. So this is a number that even the Romney people will tell you they got to turn those numbers back.
No doubt about it. We are now joined by ABC's anchor of Nightline, Terry Moran, getting ready for your broadcast, I guess, according to my watch. Just a few minutes from now. Hey, just curious, will your broadcast leave at the convention or with the Hurricane tonight?
Hurricane, no question about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Okay. And you were watching the speeches tonight. Is Ann Romney the star of the night?
Actually, I think there's probably a lot of Republicans who look at Christie the way that Republicans looked at Ronald Reagan in 1976. Oh, that guy's good. Kind of maybe wish he were the nominee rather than the guy they've got. Ann Romney sold hard, didn't she? I mean, that was a hard sell for her husband. And I think that it was so clear and blunt. I love women. Women love you. Should love Romney. He will not fail you. That's what she's experienced in her life. But I think that's a sign of how she knows that the task is very large before him and how important her role is. And I think it might have cost her some warmth and likability to be so, I don't want to say craven, but so
message.
Blunt.
Yeah,
yes.
Just very, very direct and blunt is the way to describe it.
Well, speaking of blunt, Christie, we all expected, here was the guy, the tough Jersey fighter who likes Bruce Springsteen, who apparently, I learned, Terry Moran dislikes vehemently.
You're outing
Sorry,
me.
Internet. Sorry, Internet.
You're outing me. I'm proud to own that I am not a Springsteen
That's okay.
fan.
That's all right. Listen,
I'm a Jersey boy. It's in the blood.
Yeah. All right. But did he really deliver on those expectations? I mean, the crowd liked certain things about it, but you didn't get the sense that this place was buzzing as Christie was speaking.
No, we know what a great speech is at a convention. Republican and Democrat, we've seen it. We know what it feels like in the hall. And it didn't feel like that. It's not his métier, is it? It's not his place standing behind a podium. He's a press conference guy. He's a town hall guy. He's a get the hell off the beaches guy. And put him in front of a podium with teleprompters. He did well, but it's like putting him in a cage a little bit. He's bigger than that.
Terry Moran, we know you got to go do an anchor a broadcast. So
yeah, you should probably.
Thank you very much, and you can head over to the booth next door. We appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, no,
bye, Terry. Thank you. That's true. If we could push him through that wall. It's very thin. I think that he'd be able to make it. That would be fantastic.
I do want to revisit, Amy, this topic we talked about with Hogan and Alice a little bit. I do. Obviously, there is a lot of Mitt Romney to come in this convention. I have very little doubt that Paul Ryan is going to have some of that in his speech. Usually the vice presidential candidate does. And we are going to see pieces of Mitt Romney's life all through Thursday night leading up to Mitt Romney's speech. George said this earlier. You've been saying throughout the evening. I am in total agreement with you guys, and I'm thinking about it more and more that as we look at this race, we can't just look at, as we show the favorability numbers, the deficiencies that Mitt Romney needs to overcome. He also, as titular head of the party, they have to build something over the course of the next 70 days that deals with the deficiencies of the Republican Party brand.
Right, and I think that the other piece of this is, look, you had a lot of folks up there talking about their lives, their family. Again, that part of the brand issue, and Mitt Romney has hastened this, certainly during the course of this campaign. The brand issue being, they don't get us, they're out of touch, they're much more interested in wealthy people than they are in average Americans. So every single person who went up there talked about their family story. They came from hard-scrabble backgrounds, or certainly a challenging background. Someone in their family did. But I think that, yes, it is partly they're helping the party. But the other issue here is Mitt Romney needs to sell Mitt Romney, that there's nobody else who can do that but Mitt Romney. Christie coming out and saying, wow, Mitt Romney's so great, he's going to change the world, everybody's going to be better. That's not going to sell it. What voters want more than anything is to look at Mitt Romney as Mitt Romney. Hear the messenger give the message himself instead of it being filtered through television ads or other speakers.
And they're clearly going to have their chance to do that on Thursday night when he formally accepts the nomination that he got earlier this evening with the actual roll call vote. The other piece of this is that I'm not sure, as Terry was saying, if you take Ann Romney's speech and you do that direct appeal, do you lose some real estate?
No. I don't think so at all, because I've listened to a lot of these women voters, and they don't have time to cut through all of this
stuff.
So
you got to hit them over the head.
You know what they say? Just as Ann Romney did. Look, I got to pick up my kid. I got to worry about my father who's living with us now who has Alzheimer's. I have to go to work. I got to figure out how to do the card. The dog just threw up. You know what? Just tell me what you need. I don't want to go and have to do this elaborate dance to get there. So I think that actually that speaks to where women voters are right now, which is tell me who you are. Tell me what you're going to do. Now, the one thing that speech didn't do was to tell voters how he was going to do that. Trust me, I know he's been a success. Trust me, I know he'll get the job done. He will not fail you. What Mitt Romney needs to do, of course, is to say, and here's how I will specifically do it. That's the other thing that women say that is really missing.
The other point I want to make about the whole evening that it really has that struck me throughout the night. There's a lot of conversation, as you know, in political punditry. I dismiss a lot of it because people debate whether it's a base election or it's a swing voter election. Politics, folks, it's not an either-or proposition. It is a both-and proposition. That is politics. You need both your base and you need to win over the middle. You need both.
It's just a question of what percentage, right?
So it is percentages, but I will say that we have, for the better part of a year and a half, as long as all those Republicans got in this race, and you and I have been following it closely, so many of these Republican gatherings, every debate, out through Iowa and New Hampshire last year, even throughout the heated primary when they were taking each other on in the nomination fight this year, there was so much anti-Obama rhetoric in all of these gatherings. Tonight, not nearly as much of that as I expected. Obviously, it's a Republican National Convention, and they want to defeat the incumbent president, and there's plenty of anti-Obama sentiment there. But I was expecting sort of speaker after speaker hitting that. And to me, the folks that designed this program, meaning the Romney campaign that designed this program tonight, I think it was a lot about reaching out to the middle.
I think it absolutely
was. They were really talking to swing voters in battleground states. And so for those of us that are out there sort of just saying this is a base election, a base election is not sufficient. You've got to reach out to the middle. And this, I really saw a big step on the part of Republicans from the last year and a half towards that.
Well, these things are crescendo, right? You start off with one speaker and that feeds into another and another and another and another. And as we kicked off our show tonight, which I think was 63 hours ago, because I really have no feeling in my legs. I'm not kidding about that. It started off with John Boehner. He gave a red meat speech. I mean, He just went right after Barack Obama very, very hard. That was at 7 o'clock. That was not on broadcast television.
That's right.
That was on our television, but it was not speaking to that 10 to 11 p.m. primetime audience. So I think that they sprinkled those people in early, got the crowd geared up, and the crowd knows exactly what they need to do too, which is they need to inspire the base, and you're right. When everybody talks about 2004 as a base election, here's why it was a base election. Republicans all voted for Bush. Democrats all voted for John Kerry. John Kerry actually won independents by just one percentage. So it mattered. You can't lose independents by more than that and still win, because we know that was obviously a very close election. You do have to play both of those, and the question is by what margin, what percentages, and that's why we've spent a lot of time tonight talking about the Latino vote, younger voters, the conservative vote. How many of them turn out is important, and I remember talking to a Democrat who wins a lot of races in Republican areas, and he says the way that you have to look at this is Democrats for so long have spent so much time trying to get their numbers in areas where they were already really high. So take a 75% performing district for a Democrat and turn it to 80%. That's tough to do. But can you turn a 35% district to a 40%? Just that 5% more, that could be the difference between winning and losing. And it's a lot easier to do that. Find those folks who are willing to listen to your message than trying to turn out, really squeeze blood from a stone, as they've been doing in so many races before this.
That's a really interesting point. We also want to make sure to give you a little snippet more of Ann Romney from earlier this evening. We want to play a little bit of what she said tonight before we sign off for the rest of the evening. So here's a little bit from earlier this evening of Ann Romney's speech.
You may not agree with Mitt's positions on issues or his politics. By the way, Massachusetts is only 13% Republican, so it's not like it's a shock to me. But let me say this to every American who is thinking about who should be our next president. No one will work harder. No one will care more. And no one will move heaven and earth like Mitt Romney to make this country a better place to live.
Ann Romney earlier this evening giving her speech and testimony for her husband, and obviously the appeal to women voters as we have been discussing. We want to make sure you know what is coming up tomorrow night in the convention program. You know, we asked Terry Moran what he was leading his broadcast with tonight, and it was still the hurricane. And as the hurricane makes landfall, they are still going to have to deal with a split screen story, but that is a superstar lineup for the Republican Party convention tomorrow. You've got, there's our split screen right there. You've got John McCain, the nominee from last time around, obviously, Condoleezza Rice, who just became a member of Augusta.
She did.
Yeah, exactly.
She has a pretty good golf game, as I understand.
She does have a pretty good golf game. But she also was rumored to be in consideration for VP, but I didn't believe that, and neither did you, because it wasn't true. And Tim Pawlenty, who actually was very much in consideration for the vice presidential nod, the former governor of Minnesota, who ran against Mitt Romney as part of the group of Republicans seeking the nomination. And, of course, the vice presidential nominee, Paul Ryan, who will no doubt be welcomed here as a rock star tomorrow night. We have a little bit of highlights, if you will, from the day that was at this convention. So we'll give you a whole little sense here now of the day that was at this first night of the Republican National Convention. And we will say goodnight to you when we return on the other side. Here's a little bit from today.
Leaders today have decided it's more important to be popular, to say and do what's easy, and say yes rather than to say no, when no is what is required. We have a nominee who will tell us the truth and who will lead with conviction, and now he has a running mate who will do the same. We have Governor Mitt Romney and Congressman Paul Ryan, and we need to make him the next president and vice president of the United States. If you're willing to stand up with me for America's future, I will stand up with you. If you're willing to fight with me for Mitt Romney, I will fight with you. Tonight, we stand up for Mitt Romney as the next president of the United States, and together, we will stand up once again for American greatness for our children and grandchildren. God bless you, and God bless America.
No one will care more, and no one will move heaven and earth like Mitt Romney to make this country a better place to live. I can tell you Mitt Romney was not handed success. He built it. This man will not fail.
Well, that was quite a night there. Ann Romney, really the star of the show tonight. We've spent a lot of time talking about how she would perform, her nervousness. It didn't show for a minute, and I think that her husband and her kids certainly have a lot to be proud of about that tonight.
And that image of Mitt and Ann Romney together on the stage, beamed into tens of millions of households, that is a really important image for the country to see. That kiss, the warmth between them. There is no doubt, as you know from seeing him on the trail, when she is out there with him, he is a different man when she is out on the trail with him.
I mean, I think he's tearing up there. You can really see he's holding back a lot of emotion. Of course, I'm sure seeing his own children getting so emotional. But it was quite a night, delivered certainly all the things that we expected it to, and some of the things we didn't. And that's what we have to look forward to tomorrow night. We're going to be right back here in these same chairs. I'm going to bring a special cushion maybe or something else. Maybe we're going to do chair aerobics because we have another 4.5 hours on tap. 7 o'clock tomorrow night. Be here.
Be sure to check it out on abcnews.com and yahoonews.com. Send us your thoughts, comments, tweets. We will be here at the Republican National Convention in Tampa tomorrow night. Thanks for watching.